Dean Sigler. Dean makes a regular trip to Europe to check out all the latest on electric flight. And he's also our inside man with several of the groups that are up in the San Francisco Bay Area that are interested in electric flight. And he's come to talk to us about it.
Yes, thank you. Prepare to be blown away. Later today, this will be a snoozer for all of you, so get your nap time in now. Basically, I write a couple of blogs about electric aircraft. One is the Sustainable Aviation Foundation, so it's under the name Sustainable Skies. And then the other blog is for the Cafe Foundation. They're basically the same blog, somewhat modified sometimes. But in the meantime, I have a reputation for being a cheap bastard. My wife is, and I'll give you an example here. I'm going to use a pointer today. This is my laser pointer that I bought for Dollar Tree. You too can get one. And to top it all off, I couldn't resist a 46 function pocket calculator, $1. Now, it shows what electronics have done, and it's kind of sad that the aviation industry seems to be going a different direction toward more expensive, more complex, amazingly expensive things. Okay, planes are not inexpensive. Here is one of the cheapest electric airplanes you can buy. It's a little plane, the Eagle, built by, manufactured by Mark Byerly in Santa Margarita, California. And my friends up here, Richard Steves and Martin Coxey both own one. And Martin's is called the Quark, and he was flying it to show off for Richard Steves, who came all the way from Wisconsin to see it. And the bottom right, you see Martin taking off. Both planes with a 70 horsepower, zero motorcycle engine, controller, and batteries can climb at a 45-degree angle. They were demonstrating that at Oshkosh. The Oshkosh folks told them not to do that in the pattern because it was dangerous for whatever reason. Notice that it was $133 a pound for the package. Click and Clack, the Taffet brothers on NPR radio used to say that everything should be priced by the pound, which would make parakeets $25,000 a pound, for instance. In this case, the Bug, Marcus Anlund's wonderful machine, is $4,000 or $5,000 for something that's about 120 pounds, somewhere in there, so it's a bit pricey. You'll notice that Alan Beavis in the lower picture is flying with assist from a wedge-tailed Eagle, which kind of attacked his airplane at first. If you go online, you look up Alan Beavis wedge-tailed Eagle on YouTube, you'll see some wonderful pictures of these things flying in formation. And the Bug has about a lift-to-drag ratio that seems to be equivalent to the Eagles, so it's kind of cool. Now, what I originally intended to power electrically was a Legal Eagle. The amazing picture here at the top is by Les Holman, who lives up in near Lodi, I think. And he flies all over. He trails a camera on a little sled. It's kind of a kite-shaped sled. And so he reels that out. He's got a spinning reel in the cockpit. kind of lets it out, gets a picture from behind as he's flying. Quite amazing, great fun. And here you see him following on the bottom picture. He does IFR flying. I follow, in this case, railroads. And this is a neat little plane. I originally intended to do it. Being the cheap bastard I am, though, the fuselage costs $3,000 pre-welded. So I was looking at something more wooden, and I looked back at some of the older gliders. And this was a marvelous little thing that they built back in the 30s, the late 20s, and Depression time and all, and you could buy this for, I think, 95 pounds sterling, which would be about 500 bucks in those days. And they're actually showing it to a lady there in a kind of a department store setting. But they put longer wings. The original plane had 24-foot wings, which would barely make it glide at all, I think. Not a great soarer. So they put longer wings on it, called it the Scud tube. Notice it has that diamond-shaped fuselage, very easy to fabricate for a home builder. And they finally ended up with something, the Scud 3, and it had this small two-stroke engine that popped in and out. And that's kind of an interesting configuration to consider. It's simple, it's direct, and it made a very nice looking glider. There are actually still a couple of these in existence in Europe. So I ended up with something that I found in Barnstormers. This is a Kimbrel Banty. Now Mike Kimbrel is a good friend. I've known him for years. And he and his wife, believe it or not, raised 18 children, 12 of their own, and they adopted 6, and they had dozens of foster kids running around. They're quite amazing people. I looked at the Kimbrel Banty. It had a 277 Rotax on it. That's a 27-horse oil-dripping two-stroke. And it was mounted up front here on a wooden plate that was on rubber bumpers, and it would shake around, and the exhaust was attached to that, so it moved with the engine. And I thought, this would be great for an electric motor there, because you could move the batteries up front, because there's a kind of a voluminous area in there that some batteries could fit in, and you could balance it out. The original Rotax weighed about 80 pounds, so there's some room. These 2 motors I'm looking at, one is a brushed motor, a Lynch type motor that's been around for 40 years. Sigler Lynch invented this motor, made it in England for years. He got taken over by his board of directors who thought he was a wacko, and he took the property to Asia, to India, where it's being made as an Agni motor. The Agnis are good motors. They've actually won the Isle of Man Tourist Trophy 0, which is for electric motorcycles, twice early in the running. They've been outclassed now by Honda and Mugen and all these big money people coming into it. But still, it shows what a simple brush motor can do. The lower one is a Revolt from Israel. You can get this that's advertised to put out over 30 horsepower for $785. Well, dear to my heart. And you get a cheap controller for it. Now, the issue, cheap batteries, where do you go? And I've seen all kinds of offers. You can get Chevy Bolt and volt batteries for very low prices. Quite often they've been in a car wreck. Now, you want a battery that's been in a car wreck. It's already possibly internally hemorrhaging in some fun way. So we don't know. I saw several that were lithium ion batteries from medical carts, and I thought, there's a possibility. Some of these had the specifications that would be just about right to power one of these motors. Here's the issue. I worked in a medical equipment rebuilding operation. I used to rebuild peristaltic pumps and colorimeters and other fun things. Well, you pour a lot of reagents through with the blood samples and other fluid samples, and the reagents are caustic and nasty. And a lot of what I did on a colorimeter, for instance, was body work, putting in filler and putty and painting it so it looked new, because this stuff would rot those things out. And I began to wonder, does it drip down onto the battery pack in these machines? And we had chassis. We actually had an auto body shop on site for our medical equipment rebuilding. And believe me, the medical equipment takes a beating. You think it's all nice and sanitary and stale. It is not. Okay, going from my ridiculous extremes to find the cheap way out, we're going to look at what Uber and several others are doing. How many companies are making electric vertical takeoff and landing devices for the general Uber market right now? Do you have any idea?
175.
175, yeah. The latest I saw was like 180, so you're very close. It's right in there. Yeah, 180 different companies. That includes Boeing, Airbus, Embraer, just about all your major aircraft manufacturers. And they're looking at a future that supposedly you will have on-demand flight. Now, the problem with this, most of these designs are what I call zero lift to drag machines. If power quits, you fall out of the sky, period. You're not going to glide anywhere. And Uber, to help its folks along, would show them 3 concept vehicles that would get them possible ways to design a desired vertical takeoff and landing machine that would then scoot somewhere else, drop off the passengers, and then go pick up some more passengers. Now, what they're trying for in this is a $700 a flight limit. I want you to think about that. I want to go from Portland Airport to Hillsborough Airport, and I hop in an Uber there. I'm one of 4 or 5 passengers. It's going to cost me. There is no way they can keep that cost down below a couple $100 per passenger to make a profit off of it. Here's another issue I'll bring up. Here's another way of designing one of these. Notice they all have multiple rotors for lift. They have some limited aerodynamics to make them scoot forward, but they're all hideously complex in my point of view. I may be wrong, but maybe modern electronics can give Uber the equivalent of this dollar pocket calculator. I don't think so. I think there's more on at hand here. You get into this whole idea. To top it all off, Uber has a whole bunch of over-designed skyports. And these things are mostly done by Dallas architects, and that scared the hell out of me when I heard that. Because I've been in Dallas, and if you've ever been in Dallas, there are all these huge buildings, and they're what one of my architect friends called ego buildings. You know, you put it up to say, I'm here. I'll put my name on it, even if it's Trump, you know, whatever. You're going to see it and know it's me. And if you've ever read the poem Ozymandias by Shelley, you'll remember that it's about an ancient leader whose statue lies in the dust, and it's a symbol of pride and arrogance and everything. And I think these, to some extent, let's talk about what they're expecting. They expect 1,000 flights a day into and out of one of these. Now I'm living downtown, and I'm looking up out my window at the nearby Uber skyport with all these things scooting in, scooting out, day and night. Will I feel comfortable? So here are a couple of the top runners right now. These are the 5 or 6 I'm going to show you that Uber favors at this point. And one is the city Airbus. And this is a 4-rotor, well actually 8-rotor, paired on top and bottom. And part of it is that they get their reliability out of redundancy. Theoretically, if one fails, if one rotor system fails, then you've got 7 to get you there. And you have an electronic system inside that's doing a marvelous balancing job, keeping it all straight and level. Here's the Vahana. This is actually being tested at Pendleton, Oregon. And part of it was built in Portland. I tried getting in to see the construction and never got a call back or anything. Fancy that. But this has 8 motors, 8 rotors, and wings that tilt up, pull you up, and then swing forward and scoot you away. This actually is more aerodynamic in that sense. Then they have a thing called the pop-up. You have a cab in the middle here, cabin, and you know that's your passenger cabin. You can go to the airport driving it on this little scooter, but you leave the scooter behind and you hook up to the 4 rotors on top and go flying. And they actually show a scenario where a guy is sitting somewhere and needs to go someplace. The aerial version drops down, picks him up, because he dials it up on his smartphone. This is all part of the story we're being given. And then it transfers him to the land-based version at the airport, and he drives to wherever he was going. And they reverse that scenario where you're driving to a meeting, you get picked up by the aerial version and taken away. And then here's Aurora Flight Sciences from Boeing. And again, multiple rotors all pulling you up and a couple to pull you forward. But there's all this power being generated. You have to equal the weight of the device just to stay up with thrust. And you know, that's costly in terms of battery wear and everything else. Uber is speculating that all of their machines will weigh about 2.5 tons to carry 4 to 5 people. That brings up another thing we'll talk about. Here's the Bell Nexus Hybrid, and this is the passenger carrying device here, with the rotors tilting forward to make you scoot along. This is a cargo carrying device, and these will carry various things from 25 kilogram packages on up. And then they'll be powered by a Safran-based, that's a helicopter turbine engine generator, and it's running these hub motors out there. So again, very complex to keep all of this alive. This is Embraer X's design. They're Brazilian plane maker. Mary and I are going to fly on one going to San Francisco in a couple of weeks. And this is their design. And it's kind of indicative of taking one of those concepts that Uber gave them and running with it. And then this is a new entry, the Karam Aircraft Butterfly. And Karam makes, well, they haven't made yet, but they have designs for extremely large C-130 size vertical takeoff and landing machines for the military. And then this for civilian use, where they will scoot 4 or 5 passengers around. Then Pipistrel has their Vertical Solutions 801. And notice down here at the bottom, their test vehicle has these 8 units that will blast air down, but they've neatly concealed it as an airplane with wings that will make it go forward. To me, it's maybe the cleverest way of integrating all those functions at this point. I'll get to see Tina Tomazic in a couple of weeks so I can ask him lots of dumb questions. And then there's a group called Jaunt Air Mobility, and they've developed a thing called the ROSA. And they're looking at certification by 2022. Whether or not that will happen, who knows. But again, they kind of designed it off one of the concept models from Uber. Now here's just on a small scale. We've had problems in the past with drones falling out of the sky. You know, you're at a demonstration somewhere, somebody's got a drone flying overhead filming it for your particular group, and things flip, and they fall out of the sky on people. There have been various concussion cases, and here's an actual study where the people have looked at this, and depending on what you're getting hit with, in this case a DJI drone, you know, and again, it could be at a wedding and they're filming the wedding, and all of a sudden the thing falls on the best man or something, and you get bopped terribly. So there's an issue that I see coming, and that is you're going to have larger falling objects. The DJI drone's a couple of kilograms with a camera. They're talking up to, this is 350 kilograms. We're talking even larger, you know, 1,000 kilograms, 2,000 kilograms. Now, no matter how you put it together, if you have a ballistic parachute, which they show here on this Surefly workhorse, and it pops out, and Boris Popov at BRS has even retro rockets that would be on the edges of the corners of the parachute. They would fire as you settle down, and it would come down very slowly. But if you're under a 2-ton object, even if it's coming down at 0.5 meter a second, that's going to hurt. So I see insurance being a killer of this whole idea. Look at the uproar in New York recently when the helicopter got lost in the fog, crashed on a building. One guy dead, you know, just the pilot in this case. But imagine one landing on a street corner with 12 people or more. Okay, I have some alternatives I really like. I want to see things more aerodynamic, and this is something that a gentleman at, oh gosh, I have my notes and I don't see them here. But anyway, he has a gold sheet type airfoil, and he's got pressure blowing through an exhaust that would fill in the weight behind the wing and help push it forward. What if we could have something that, helps generate lift over the wing? This is what NASA's working on with the X-57 Maxwell. And you can see this gets a bit complex. This is a schematic for hooking all of that stuff together, all those motors that are driving the airflow over the wing and the big motors that take over out there on the wingtips. This is David Allman's Jabberwock in Independence, Oregon. Speaking of wind tunnels, Dave has his own very large wind tunnel that takes up most of his hangar. And he has 4 electric ducted fans here on top of the wing. They blow air over the wing, help perform additional lift, help form additional lift. And we come to the end of this. My whole thing is that I think we need more aerodynamic solutions and less of these solutions that are based on sheer power of lifting the device off the ground. I think we're going to get into some real trouble there. This, to end with, is a picture of the Smart Flyer Challenge get-together in Switzerland 2 years ago. They've had these for 3 years now, but there are over a dozen electric planes of all sizes and types on the ground. And anyway, it shows that there's tremendous promise. Electric power can work for all sizes of things, up to a certain point. It's not there for 747s or, DC-10s yet or anything. But, okay, thank you very much. You've been